What is going on, guys? Today we are going to be looking at 500k and under for each position. So we've got a bunch of players, to be honest, all under 500,000 coins, and we're going to discuss who should be in your team, where are they useful, super sub or not. So we've got the goalkeepers to start with. We'll keep it very brief with these. And in terms of kind of the best keeper, I've always liked the team of the year Van der Sar. It's number one in my opinion, but again, everybody else has a different one. In terms of the team of the season, ter Stegen definitely stood out for me. Szczesny was very, very good in the Serie A Cup, and also Alisson has been a great backup for Van der Sar if ever a problem had occurred or if I need an objective. Obviously, that one is an SBC player. You could go footballers. Ederson, as to be honest, both of them, for me, have been very, very similar throughout the years. Obviously, Courtois got to be thrown in there. I did like him as a keeper, but not as much as Van der Sar. And finally, Yashin is just on the brink of 500. A very good keeper, but to be honest, he's the only one out of the bunch I very rarely play over 100 games with. Everybody else has had many more matches than each other. Obviously, Van der Sar, like I say, has been the big one for me. But in terms of kind of these selection, I think you'd be absolutely solid with any of them. I'd like to tell you about skycoach.gg. They offer many features within the FIFA franchise, from FIFA coins to FIFA Weekend League boosts, from trusted sellers, pro players, and are the best prices on the market currently. They have fast delivery, high quality services, lots of games, and also a cashback program. The more coins you buy, the more eligible you are for cashback options. So if you want to buy FIFA coins at the best price, click the link in the description of this video. It will be active promo code for 10% discount from my subscribers. All you have to use is the code JT11 at the checkout to receive this bonus. On to the video. We then move into the fullbacks. So again, we've got quite a few here. We're going to start off on the bottom with Reece James. The one thing I noticed with a lot of these fullbacks, right back, left back, whatever, very, very cheap. Obviously, there's a couple that are a little bit more expensive, but most of them are coming in under the 100k mark, which is always perfect when building a team. Reece James has been my favourite Prem right back, and most definitely there is only a handful of right backs that personally make it into this list. We have Bamba on the other side, obviously an objective right now. You can do it for the next 15 days, I want to say, but you've only got to complete 50 upgrades, which you can do with bronze and silvers for the next 5 to 6 days, and you've got it golden. Obviously, a shapeshifter, not a bad right back nonetheless. I feel like the stats wise, he's looking more right wing, but I bet you could definitely get a number at a right back for him. We then go to the top in Zinchenko. Good left back in the Prem. Not my favourite all going, but most definitely I personally would go him over Robertson in my opinion, just from seeing the kind of game styles together. But there is very little between the two that I could say one is outstanding above the other. Orsolini is another great shapeshifter right back, brand new into the game, obviously from shapeshifter, coming in very, very cheap and offers that right back selection, and I've seen more than my fair share of positive reviews for this guy. Frimpong, one of the better ones in my opinion as a right back, very cheap and very, very effective. So quick. Great agility on him. He's got a monster tackle when you add, obviously, a sentinel or something to get that defending up even more. A beautiful right back. One of my favourite throughout team of the season has got to be Di Lorenzo. Very much like Frimpong, and to be honest, very much like any other team of the season fullback. 95 to 99 pace is an absolute given. Di Lorenzo is rapid. Great overlapping right back if you wanted to go for that sort of style. Very much like Frimpong, same with Alphonso Davies. Very, very good on that kind of overlapping side because the pace there and back is beautiful. Very much similar to Molina. Only really used him in La Liga Cup, to be honest, and I wasn't necessarily as impressed as I was with Frimpong and Di Lorenzo, in my opinion. Robertson, like we suggested, Zinchenko, them two, to be honest, just goes down to chemistry links, because obviously the nations are not quite in the major majority. Then obviously you're going to have to go for either Liverpool players, Arsenal players if you've got yourself a Martinelli, a Saka, and Odegaard, whereas obviously Salah's going to come to mind, Nunez, Virgil, obviously for Robertson, and also Alisson, obviously. Alfonso's coming in as one of my favourite left backs, but he has got competition. Jordi Alba for 200k if you're running a La Liga team, not bad at all. Kind of survived, kind of maybe reincarnated him a little bit because he was dead for this game. Even his Centurions didn't even get a lick in Capdevia, whereas I think this one, until we see another potential upgrade for the heroes, I think Alba's getting above Capdevila in my opinion. Nuno Mendes, another great left back, again very much pace orientated as well, going for that sentinel is going to be beautiful at 220. Roberto Carlos is one that most years he is my favourite left back. Capdevila stripped that of him very early on. The Trophy Titans is coming in very nicely, but personally, Theo is my number one shout for this. The most expensive fullback you can get, and he is worth every absolute penny. He is so quick, better than the team of the year by a margin, and I think in general, if you've got him, you are loving him as a fullback, and definitely endgame nonetheless. We then move on to some centre-backs. So straight away, we've got two brand new centre-backs in Becker and Sorloth. Sorloth was the SBC last week, or yesterday in fact, and Becker is in Team 1 at 70,000 coins. Don't get me wrong, they're not necessarily my top of the top, but in terms of the absolute best centre-backs, we're looking over 1 million coins. Compared to fullbacks, there is a bit more expense in centre-backs, strikers, wingers. They don't make them like fullbacks. They are a lot more expensive, but definitely this is kind of all-round budget. If anything, we will naturally progress the price up. Medina and Ake, very good for the prices. You've got 100k and 100, well, both in fact 105k. Perfect links to other players, and obviously both in their own right, very cheap beasts. We have Desai, not necessarily again one of the one I'd choose personally. You could have got him in your swaps last season, but most definitely has seen the toll on his price and is still an impeccable centre back. Same as Maldini, 188k for his mid. I'm not saying that he is the best, but in terms of a Maldini mid prime for birthday, they all have the in-game natural ability of Maldini. He is still absolutely solid if you have no other shout. Laporte is an SBC, kind of touch on him. Again, Prem-wise, brilliant. Has the Spanish links if you've got yourself a Pedri, an Alba, a Biscuits, a Rodri. Always works really well there. Marquez was one of my favourite ones prior to Team of the Season. Again, gives you the absolute benefit of a monster centre-back. Very much like the icons we've got. Vidic, an incredible upgrade to Team of the Year. Baresi, exactly the same, as well as Nesta. And Carlos Alberto now shifting from a right-back into a centre-back makes these icons so much more useful. We kind of have more options than just your Maldini, your Rio from previous years, and obviously from Carlos Alberto if you moved him into the centre-back role. Tomore is actually cheaper than I thought it'd be. I genuinely thought it'd be over 500, but he is an absolute rock. I loved his winter wild card, loved his gold card at the start, and this version is immense. And finally, well, penultimately, Cordoba at 444. Price tag is a little bit much. I would probably look at a bit of a cheaper option if you are saving coins a little bit, unless you've got the absolute maximum to spend. Personally, for me, I don't think he's worth the 444, especially when we do have hero SBCs, picks, packs, all coming out every single week. And then finally, Arejo as an SBC, 390k, and looks like an absolute bargain for him now. So now we move on to the mids, CDMs, CMs, cams. I have predominantly tried to keep everybody in their position of what they can be. I've tried to not go with left wings that can be a cam, just because they would be on the wingers one in general. So starting off at the bottom, we've got a couple of Ligue 1 players. Fofana, very cheap, and again will offer you a great link in that Ligue 1 team. Same as Bailly, I feel like one card that just never really got any love now. He's obviously dropped in rating compared to his Man U days. Even then wasn't necessarily the highest rated, but this is a great switch for him. I loved Fofana when he went from centre-back, got the upgrade, but you could still put him CDM. I think centre-backs in the right player's hands can be a great switch for them. We've seen it a lot of the times with right-backs like Atal, Trent, and somebody else that's coming to mind. I think Ferland Mendy, going into that CDM centre mid role with a big boost, it really works. Why not for a centre back as well? And having the 5-star weak foot always works nicely. We have a few cheap team of the seasons, obviously Moreno, Casemiro, Tonali, and Bruno G, all coming in relatively under 100,000 coins as we see here. Moreno definitely kind of one of them ones that maybe doesn't have the skill, but a 5-star weak foot is always going to be beneficial, especially if you are building a cheaper team. If you're not spending millions on your midfielder, they are perfect options if you can get them linked up. Kimmich CDM role is just, it's Kimmich. We know how good he is with that. Physicality is perfect, great defending, dribbling and passing are absolutely exceptional, and you can go whack a Hunter on him if you really wanted to make him very much like his counterpart Goretzka, who again is coming in 200k more. We then have Verratti, more of a play style difference here, same as Modric at the top, to be honest. Both of them are more of your passing, dribbling sort of players. They're not necessarily the heavy defensive reliability, but more on pushing that ball forward up the wing. So if you are playing like a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, you'd have the two centre mids almost acting as the left mid, right mid. A perfect position for both of them. Push the ball up, get it to the cam, get it to the strikers. They can come back and be a nuisance. They've got the pace for that, but they're most definitely not going to be that DM role, for instance, like Kimmich likes Tonale. We then have Biscuits. Personally, for me, Biscuits was a good player, and he's definitely had a great upgrade for his end of era. But then we got Rodri. No fault of EA's, because obviously Rodri with the Champions League final, there's not a lot they could do. But the upgrade from Biscuits to Rodri and a half of the price, Rodri is an absolute baller. Biscuits is good, but Rodri's better. Depay as a centre mid option, I definitely think he's worth the mention. I don't think I'd go pay 475 for him. If you manage to get him in a pack, I think you've got a good option. But I do think he's very much like Modric in a different sense, that he does like, well, I reckon he would play better in a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, or something where he's a lamb, a ram, something still very attacking, even with that defensive upgrade. I don't think he's necessarily a DM by any shout. He's definitely someone that you want to push up and get forward with. Very much like a winter wildcard Benzema. We then have Vieira, one that, to be honest, is dropped down in price under everybody's nose. He does have a Trophy Titans, which is coming in at a little bit more of a price, but we've always known Prime Vieira to be exceptional, and there is no difference right now. He's just in a bit of a cheaper price. Trophy Titans, Keane, always like the player, obviously at SBC. I think he's absolutely wonderful. He's not everybody's cup of tea, and if you've managed to get very lucky during Team of the Season, like for instance, Kev is coming under 500k, I know who I'd pick personally. Simons, beautiful cam, absolutely love him from the Eredivisie. If you can get him linked up, I think for me, if he was joining a lot of the teams I see in Champs, he more than likely would be a super sub more than anything, mainly because the links are just not there. I don't really have too many Dutch players. I think Van der Sar's one of them, Cruyff's one of them, and I think that's it in terms of Dutch players. So unless you've got them already in the team, I think super sub would really suit him. Barella, another great option as a kind of box-to-box, very much like Goretzka, same as Valverde as well. And you could even offer in a bit of Llorente there, but I do think Llorente is on a different breed. He is just phenomenal, same as kind of Kev. Kev has got himself a nice upgrade here. We obviously already seen a Team of the Year, but most definitely when we do see the Team of the Year, we then get the Team of the Season that normally is a little bit better. I'm not saying he is much better, because I think they've tried to really nail down a cheaper or a lower rated sort of Prem squad throughout to then be able to push them in footies later on, which is always a good move and a bad move at the same time. And finally with Matthias, beautiful card. You don't need too much introduction for him. Any version of him from mid all the way up is absolutely insane. And I think if you can take this card for 500, he's a great centre mid as well. So then we move on to some wingers, and I must admit, wingers are expensive. They are definitely above the price range, and this is where you would take the value of, say, a fullback who you could get for 50k to 100k, and then spend the rest on wingers. Wingers, forwards, midfield and centre-backs are very heavily priced at the top of the top. But we have got some nice cheap options here. I think Cuadrado, personally, I do like him as a right back, but they force him as a right mid every time. I don't watch Juventus, so I don't know how much he does play right mid, but I'm assuming if obviously he's getting some sort of Team of the Season, he's got to be there more than once. Georgie Best, not necessarily my first choice, but definitely a cheaper option if you are looking for a winger. We also, again as well with the cheap options, have Ginola. 5-star, 5-star, hear me out with him, because I think he's very much like a gold Mbappe. He may not be the best by the end, but he still can be used, and 125k is a steal for a 5-5. I'd much rather have that than a really low-rated kind of fast winger that can't do anything else. Ginola is still a very good striker winger that you could definitely push through the kind of lower ranks. We then move on to Frankowski, great shapeshifter. If you've not given him a go, have a little go with him. He is beautiful for 168. It's a steal. Like what a lot of people do with these sort of players. If he was Polish Real Madrid, Brazilian Real Madrid, and still the same stats, his price would be absolutely through the roof. It is always about club nation tax. And I do think if you've got a Ligue 1 team, you've got Fofana for Lens, I believe, and also Samba for team of the season, they will be absolutely more than enough for this guy to go in the team. Even if you throw a Lewandowski, a Zelensky in there as well, you've got a beautiful combination of links for him. We then have Pires. Again, another one that I personally think is a good card. Not necessarily now my favourite left mid, and I think 460 for the SBC. Obviously, you can go get him a little bit cheaper. You will like a kind of bit of him. I think the pace is very deceiving from him from when I've used him, and I do think he is faster than what he seems. Gabriel Martinelli, personally for me, a great super sub. He isn't necessarily over Saka in my opinion. Obviously the prices are a little bit different with about 100k difference, but in terms of a super sub, very quick, very agile, and can get in the box for a goal as well. We then also have two Portuguese wingers from the minor leagues in Pedro Goncalves and also Jota. 94-95, both of them very, very adapt to the wing. And a lot of these kind of left wings, like for instance Harry Kewell, Son, even Salah to some extent, can be left wing, right wing, cam, striker. I feel like the kind of wing aspect of these two are predominantly where I'd look for them. I wouldn't necessarily go striker. Maybe could go cam, depending on obviously formations. Maybe a Lam or a Ram really would suit them down to the ground there. But I do think at the very minimum, if your team's not at an expert level, I think super sub could be the option as well. Harry Kewell is always an option though. 275, great player. Son was one that really surprised me with the price. 290, I think this card's better than what it is. A 4-star, 5-star Son normally for me is a striker than a winger, but if you've got a very narrow up front, a 4-3-3, a 4-3-2-1, he could do it. He absolutely can do it. Salah had to be chucked in here again just for pure pace. Again, team of the season is where I'd really lie with him, but in terms of kind of the inform, again, 275 isn't terrible for a big player like him. I would say I'd probably go for Saka more though. Incredible pace. If you've not used a Team of the Year honourable Saka, just think of, or if you have in fact, think of that but quicker, faster, better shooting, better passing. He is an all-round very good right wing, but also can play left mid as well, which is where he is on my team. Garrincha, enough said about him, to be honest, very much like Best. He naturally just follows the progression of the game. As we get better versions, he normally is one that definitely sticks out. Him, Jarzinho, who's a little bit more expensive, and obviously Best were the best right wings you could possibly get. And finally, an SBC player that, again, very little bit touched on really, because he is gone in SBCs now, but Rafinha as 400k, very, very good Brazilian right wing that would give you the returns back. We then have the strikers, and without the strikers, gold Mbappe has to be there. I do think he's slowly coming out of it now, just purely for the fact team of the season has got so many strikers for so little price, but as well with strikers, very expensive at the top end. But we have got a list together here. Eto'o, I don't need to say much about Eto'o. We've talked about Eto'o in a lot of icon tier lists, a lot of icon just best meta. He is exceptional. We then have Di Maria, another great moments that you can get. If you've loved his team in the tournament, this card's just that one step better. And a 5-star, 4-star as well. Just beautiful from him. We then have Harry Kane and Lewandowski, 150 and 240. Both of them normally in gold version, in form, maybe even second in form, you don't touch them. The pace is just not enough, but the stats on these two are stupid. They score left, right, centre. Obviously, Lewandowski does have his award winner version as well, if you wanted to really flex on somebody, if you're looking to buy him. Very much the same price, if anything, as well. But both of them are exceptional strikers, and you could get both of them for under 500k, which is just perfect. Puskás, Eusebio, Del P, again, some of the best icons we can get for this price. Obviously, your Pelés, your R9s, your Cruyffs, little bit more expensive. I think mid-Cruyff is coming in just over 600, so he's not quite in this list, but if we do a million, then obviously we will put that in as well. Jonathan David, and also Ben Yedder, who's 345. Ben Yedder's exceptional. If you've not used a Ben Yedder at all in the past 4 years, you're living under a rock, because there is a reason why he's called Ben Sweater, and that is he is phenomenal. And Jonathan David this year, so many informs, so many kind of special versions. He had to be in it. And the only kind of downside with this is Openda was the objective rather than necessarily a team of the season moments or player next to him, because them two would have been very, very nice as a pairing. Then obviously we have the two Prem Man City boys in Haaland. Does have a 91 man of the match, but I do find with the price difference, the one to watch is easy one to go for if obviously you've got the coins to spend rather than an SBC. And Alvarez, one of my favourite future stars. Came on the market, destroyed the striker list, and was incredible. So hopefully a great future for him. Maybe a footies down the line this year. A 5-5 Alvarez would be absolutely insane, but definitely a good striker to have in your team as well. And that's going to be the list for everybody. Let me know down below if you are playing with somebody different. Next week we might do the under 1 million. So if you want to check that out, make sure you hit the subscribe button with notifications, and I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.